war in Gaza, now stretching beyond 20 months, saying it's time to stop the bloodshed and bring hostages home. His call adds to growing domestic and international pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to halt the conflict. Let's listen in to the Israeli opposition.
הגיע הזמן לסיים את המלחמה בעזה. לעשות עסקת חטופים ולסיים את המלחמה. למדינת ישראל, לביטחון ישראל, לא צומחת כבר שום תועלת מהמשך המלחמה. רק נזק. נזק ביטחוני, נזק מדיני, נזק כלכלי. זוהי גם עמדת הצבא. הרמטכ"ל אייל זמיר הופיע אתמול בפני הקבינט ואמר על עזה, הדרג המדיני צריך להחליט מה היעד הבא. משמעות המשפט הזה היא שלצבא אין יותר יעדים ממשיים בעזה. אני בעד חיסול החמאס. אבל החמאס לא יחוסל כל עוד לא ייכנס לעזה שלטון אלטרנטיבי. היינו צריכים כבר לפני שנה להתחיל מהלך כדי להכניס את המצרים לנהל את עזה יחד עם מדינות ערביות נוספות. אני מבין ששרי הימין הקיצוני רוצים שנכבוש את עזה ונשלוט בה לנצח. חיילים ימשיכו למות, משלם המיסים הישראלי, מעמד הביניים הישראלי החבוט והחבול, ישלם על בניית כבישים ובתי ספר וניקוי הרחובות של תושבי עזה. זו הזיה. רוב מוחלט של אזרחי ישראל לא שם.
Lapid's remarks come as Defense Minister Israel Katz declared the campaign in Gaza is nearing completion. We are now facing the completion of the Gaza campaign and the achievement of its objectives. First and foremost, the release of all hostages and the defeat of Hamas, Katz said during a high-level meeting with Netanyahu and Army Chief Yair Lapid. Let's listen in.
אנחנו ניצבים כעת עם הפנים להשלמת המערכה בעזה ולהשגת יעדיה, ובראשם שחרור כל החטופים והכנעת החמאס. יש לנו עוד משימות רבות בזירות השונות ועבודה.
However, the push for a ceasefire has drawn sharp criticism from far-right ministers Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, who insist the war must continue. They argue that after Israel's recent military success against Iran, the momentum should be used to finish Hamas decisively. The war must not end now, Ben-Gvir said in a statement. We must continue until Hamas is eliminated completely. While Netanyahu has not publicly commented to a timeline, officials suggest he is balancing between military objectives and mounting diplomatic pressure, especially ahead of his upcoming White House visit. Now we're going back to our discussion with Jordan Cope. He's a Middle East expert joining us live from Erfurt, Germany. Thank you, Jordan, for staying with us. Now, with this conflict dragging on for over 20 months, is bringing the hostages home through negotiations now the only realistic option, or does a military solution still hold any weight according to you?
It's not necessarily the only diplomatic option, because what I've been reading, at least according to rumors, is that Hamas has still yet once again refused any ceasefire proposal at the end of the day that would release all hostages, because Hamas is not prepared to relinquish power. And this is one of the most important objectives to the war that must be achieved, because Hamas's leadership has time and time again expressed its commitment to committing future October 7th style attacks in the future. And if Israel ultimately wants to free all hostages, both now and the future, it must ensure that Hamas does not have the power, the resources, and the funding that comes therewith with its power to be able to commit such attacks in the future. I'm hearing rumors right now that the United States is trying to propose a ceasefire proposal that would ultimately call on Hamas's leadership to leave the Gaza Strip. And there are currently competing militias on the ground in the Gaza Strip, such as the Abu Shabaab militia, which is currently fighting Hamas for power. And sometimes they do coordinate with the Israeli officials in their efforts to compete for power. And so it's not quite so easy how to ascertain how Israel will ultimately get Hamas out of power and get all the hostages home. But Israel has certainly prioritized more recently, now more than ever, after the 12-day war, the hostages' release and liberation. And yet the primary obstacle still remains Hamas. which knows the longer that this war drags out, the longer it achieves its ultimate goal, which is to delegitimize Israel, which Hamas has made very clear it hopes to destroy.
Will stay with us for